Hey team, you're about to experience my interview with James McNamara from Macaroni Software. And Macaroni bills themselves as the future of e-commerce SEO for Shopify stores. It is an end-to-end Shopify SEO automation platform that allows brands to easily scale their SEO capabilities very rapidly in an automated way. Macaroni automates all of the painful components of SEO automation at scale across medium and large size Shopify catalogs. I learned a ton from our conversation. It was really enjoyable. Hope you guys enjoyed as well. This is the E-commerce Edge podcast with your host, Jason Greenwood. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the podcast. It is my absolute pleasure to welcome James McNamara from Macaroni Software and also Blink SEO to the podcast. So good to have you along for the ride today. And we met on LinkedIn. It was great to catch up and connect via LinkedIn. And I wanted to get you on to talk about Macaroni Software, which is, I'm sure there's a story behind the name. It's a very memorable name. And you're the operations director both at Blink SEO and at Macaroni Software. And as I understand it, the Macaroni Software website, bit light on detail, but you call it the future of e-commerce SEO, and it's built for Shopify, also built for agencies. So I'm guessing that it's a Shopify app, and that I'm assuming it automates some elements of SEO work that brands need to do for their own brands. And obviously, because you come from an SEO agency background, and presumably you were offering services to e-commerce brands, you had to either develop some tooling in-house to automate some of your SEO tasks, but also you must have gotten pretty familiar with some of the pain points that e-commerce brands face when trying to scale their SEO efforts. And then obviously this all comes at a cost, right? It comes at a cost of software and or services through agencies like Blink. And so I'm guessing that the platform or the product side of what you guys do sprang out of all those learnings that you got as an agency. And I'm just making those assumptions.
Yes, that is exactly how it came about. So as a digital marketing agency, let's say 4 or 5 years ago, started to specialize in e-commerce, which is a decision that quite a few agencies have made. And it worked for us at the time because it satisfied our technical expertise. We were very good as a technical SEO agency, and e-commerce SEO has quite a few very technical things that often go wrong, and it requires quite a lot of complicated analysis, and we were good at that. We're also good at the content side of things. We're good at content strategy, and both the founder of Macaroni and Blink, Sam, and I came from a writing background. We enjoyed the content side of things. The e-commerce made sense in terms of our skill set and the people on the team. And then when we started this work, what we found was the process that we were doing for every kind of client was really the same. And it started with taxonomy. It started with how a website's products and collections were structured. And when I say products and collections, I'm referring to Shopify, but that's the same for any e-commerce store, and however it's whatever the hierarchy, the names are. You have to work out how all of those pages are interlinked and the kind of semantic architecture of the website, and that informs how a search engine is going to read it, and it informs how users use it as well, and then their navigation. And if you get that right, and you get a kind of architecture of static pages that can be read by a search engine that captures as much user intent as you can, then you can grow traffic. And a lot of e-commerce sites or stores, they don't capture nearly as much traffic as they might be able to because of the way they use filters or the way they use other elements like this, which are UX elements that make sense to a user and make sense to someone, a store owner who's on the site. And they, of course, there's another filter here that filters for the color on the sides and everything like that. It's not intuitive that if all of those things were static pages, then that would greatly increase you'd have to gain traffic. And so we were constantly recommending this stuff, and it's not easy to do. You can't just rebuild. You can't just add static pages to these filters. It was really complicated dev work that we were doing. We were encountering that problem a lot, and we were also the kind of analysis that we were doing in terms of trying to find opportunities for these category pages and actually just working out the taxonomy of the site was bringing together lots of different data sources, wrangling a load of Google Sheets, and gradually over the period of a few months, depending on the client's budget. If they had a bigger budget, we could do it more quickly. But generally speaking, over a few months, working out the taxonomy of a site, getting to grips with every single product, doing on-page optimization, keyword research first, and then on-page optimization and things that start from that. But we had to do it gradually over a long time because it was a big manual job. And then I think the kind of genesis of this idea was just, I think I went to write an SEO and I just saw that someone was doing basically some cool stuff with Python and data science, and they were looking at forecasting. And I was like, this is someone who's actually doing this kind of thing properly. And then someone was doing, I think they were talking about automating some kind of task using Python. And I was like, we need to have a look at what we can do here, because e-commerce, the whole kind of distinguishing thing about it in relation to SEO and its SEO problems is the complexity of these taxonomies and the scale of it, and the kind of, the scale of content and how you build that up. It is inherently resource intensive. And so the strategy is different. It's very different to other kinds of businesses. So yeah, the combination of these things, we started to test things out. We eventually hired a data scientist to basically investigate what we could do with the data we had, Google Search Console data, and blending together different data streams, tidying up what was there, understanding what was going on. And I guess that was the first thing we built, or the first thing that we started building, was that data engine. We call that Macaroni. And that's essentially like there's three main parts to Macaroni. There's the data engine, it's Macaroni, and that unites the two other parts. So there's the agency platform, and it's built, that's what we use every day to do our tasks. And that's what we're now offering to other agencies, or not just agencies, but freelancers, or anyone who's doing e-commerce SEO analysis. Side of things are also building at the same time. It's a little while away, but we're getting there, is the Shopify app, which is for individuals, store owners who don't have an SEO agency, who want to do SEO and want like a guided experience of how to do it, and can automate that process of building out their taxonomy. And that's specifically Shopify. The agency platform can be used with other platforms, but we can't implement with other platforms from it yet. We can implement onto Shopify directly from Macaroni, which is another kind of really exciting thing about it, actually. It ties the whole thing together, because the other problem about scaling the SEO side of things is getting stuff live on the site. When you have a third-party web development agency and you send them, like, we need these 30 pages made live, and it gets added to a workflow, and it maybe they go live in 4 months or something. But with Macaroni, we can do the analysis much more quickly, and then we can create those pages and then implement them from directly within the platform with literally a click of the buttons. Like, these are the opportunities. These are the suggested page titles and other kind of the metadata, things you need on the page. And you go create category, it links up to the API and it creates that category. So tying all those things together, yeah, it's really powerful. It's taken a while for us to get to this point where it is all working properly, and we've ironed out all the complexities, and it's a proper standalone functional tool that we're happy for other people to use. There were some teething problems, obviously, but now we use it, and it really has transformed the way that we do e-commerce SEO. And yeah, the future of e-commerce SEO is a really grandiose claim, isn't it? But the fact that e-commerce SEO is so resource intensive it's not really necessary now that we can automate these things.
If we talk about some of the operational tasks that an SEO agency typically delivers to a brand, they'll do the keyword research of where the demand already exists in the market for products like what the vendor is selling, what the merchant is selling. They then look at what type of product data is available in the catalog. So what type of product information do we have available? What information is in product descriptions? Specifically in the context of Shopify, we look at what attributes are available as product tags or product meta fields. We're looking at what type of data we would typically want to surface on the front end as a facet or a filter within a category. Because if you got a category that's got, 1,000 products in it, and you want people to immediately find a product that's relevant to them, you need to be able to facet and filter down to a subset of maybe 10 products of that 1,000 very quickly, based on the priorities of the products in that category that matter to that particular customer on the front end. But to your point, I think what you're trying to say is that data oftentimes needs to be, or in a perfect world, would be surfaced instead of having to filter down. We would take that structured product data, the structured arrays of product data, and we would actually create those we would inject those into the name of a collection / category, so that because obviously when you put the quote unquote filter data, when you put that into the category name, for example, that now shows up as an H1. It shows up in the content of the category page. You now have the correct products assigned to those categories that already have those attributes as part of those products. And now when somebody searches for that product with that attribute already applied as part of the search query, now we have an exact match page to land them on, hopefully, or as close to an exact match page as possible, to land them on or send them to, whether it be from a paid campaign or organic results. And it lands them directly on that page with effectively the products pre-filtered to match that query. And so everything lines up. The query lines up, the H1 lines up, the URL lines up because that's the name of the category, the products that are assigned to that category line up, and everything's in harmony, right? But what you're saying is that in order to do that in a manual way is a massive amount of work, right? Like in order to identify those matches between queries and what could potentially match on our website, creating all of the matched category pages for all those queries, even if we don't ultimately put that into the mega menu because it would make the mega menu messy if we had thousands of those pages. So we don't necessarily have to have them in the menu. But as long as those pages actually exist, then Google can index those pages and send the perfectly matched queries to the perfectly matched pages. And we have a much higher likelihood of conversion because now the products actually match what the client is looking to buy. But again, if we want to do that at scale, because most SEO agencies, they do this as a manual process where oftentimes either one of two things happens. They are given access to the back end of the merchant's Shopify store where they can create these collections manually, and then either in Shopify speak, create an automated collection with attribute matching to automatically assign the products to those categories, or they manually attach the products to the categories that are a match. Or they have to make a list of these pages, give it to the brand, and then either the merchandising or marketing team or the dev team, whoever it is that creates these pages within Shopify, they would have to do this manually. You can give them the list and you can give them the specs. You can say, this is what you need to name the category or collection. These are the types of product attributes that you should be assigning to this category. This is the category description text you need to put in there. You might even give them a spreadsheet that they just copy, paste. But largely, this is a manual process, is effectively what you're telling me.
Yeah, it is. You explained that beautifully. It was really impressive. That's the process that we were doing. And then we thought this is really inefficient. There's definitely ways to automate this. And that the way you described the kind of like clustering algorithmic part of things is exactly right. And the kind of what you can do when you do that, you have this really granular way of targeting user intent with static pages. So you have this bigger net to capture traffic. So it's really important. And it's specifically really important to e-commerce sites. It's like an essential fundamental thing that you have to do as an e-commerce store owner and what you have to do as part of your SEO work. But that is one part of the SEO that is done typically for an e-commerce SEO agency. Will be doing that when they come with Shopify. With other things, it's sometimes even more complicated. With Magento, it's different, and WooCommerce is different. But yeah, I think that was explained incredibly well. And with Macaroni, what we're doing is automating that process as much as...
So I guess that allows a brand or an agency helping a brand, it allows them to create many more pages faster that match query / buyer intent in search engines. And it also, obviously, this doesn't just work for organic SEO. This could be for a paid campaign. It could be for a Google ad. It could be for a Meta ad. It could be for whatever. Hey, we need a page that the targeting of the campaign and the queries related to that campaign that trigger that campaign to run, which then potentially would result in a click on an ad, which then needs a landing page to direct someone to match the intent of that ad or the intent of what somebody's trying to find via that ad. We still need some place to send them. And the idea being, we want to send them to the most relevant page possible. And the way that we do that in the context of an e-commerce environment or e-commerce shopping environment is to send them to a category page that has the most relevant products related to their query possible, so that they don't have to click around, so that they don't have to navigate through the mega menu, so that they don't have to use the search bar at the top of the page to try to find this thing that you said you carry. No, we want to do that legwork for you. We want to take the mental bandwidth away from the customer. We want to minimize the effort for them to identify the products that are relevant to their query. And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to hyper target a category page, almost like we were reading their mind about what they wanted to see when they landed on our website. Because as we know, the more clicks somebody has to make across an e-commerce website before they find what they're looking for, the greater chance that they're going to leave that website without making a purchase. So the lower chance of converting them. So is that the whole mental model we're trying to use around automating this process?
Yes, it is. Yeah, it helps to scale everything, and yeah, we use it for our PPC services as well. Yeah, it drives the whole project forward, this process for us now. And I think before, I can't really speak to further agencies who are the e-commerce agencies, so they haven't really. We've spoken to quite a few of them, and the processes haven't really gotten a really good grasp of what the kind of process is, or what the sort of commonly understood process is. There's a commonly understood outcome, and everyone understands what kind of needs to be done. But there's almost a sense that it's, oh God, this is a pain, but we have to do it, and we only get paid X thousand pounds per month. We can only spend 20 hours on this, so we're just going to have to do it the best we can. I guess some agencies will have someone in the team who is decent with Python or something, or I don't know, has some kind of like technical skills with automation who can help them out. But yeah, I think hopefully soon that's not going to be good enough. It's not going to be doing that really slowly, where a client can't scale as quickly as they'd like to. And that is really that is such a key part of it. That's a very key concern of potential clients. It is probably the number one concern. Like, how quickly can I see results? And you always have to, or historically, you've always had to say it's going to be. We don't really know. It's going to be 3 to 6 months, but really maybe a year. But if you can do this, if you can add 20, 30 new collection pages every month and grow that traffic really fast, you can see those results very quickly. We've been able to reach really ambitious targets, growing organic revenue 100% year on year within a few months and things like that. But yeah, that is how it works. And we are looking to disrupt that with Macaroni. We think it's a space that is ripe for disruption. It's an area where automation is really, I think, uniquely valuable. This kind of stuff isn't really relevant to SaaS SEO. That's all about content and about PR and link building and all that kind of stuff, which you do need humans for. And actually, it's not to say that e-commerce SEO doesn't involve that. And one byproduct of this, I think, hopefully, is that it will free up resources for some of those really human parts of digital marketing, and maybe not just SEO, but the branding and content strategy and those things. Because you have to, a business with a marketing budget, of which SEO is a fraction of stuff, doesn't often get looked at, or it's looked at separately from the whole thing. It's not part of SEO. But yeah, we're looking to change how things are done. And it's already changing how we're doing things.
And how did you guys decide that, because there's other enterprise SEO platforms out there that claim to be able to do similar things to what you have described. How do you guys see yourself in the mix? Because very rarely are you going into a software category of one. It's very rare that would be the case. It's very rare that you're creating a brand new category. And I think enterprise SEO is one of those categories that's reasonably well established, in the sense that there's lots of technology vendors out there. I think especially with the advent of AI, and especially with the increasing availability of AI and large language models, et cetera, that are really trying to automate SEO in as many ways as they can, because automation doesn't just save money. It doesn't just save time. I think it's a matter of scalability, right? At the end of the day, when you're doing SEO for an e-commerce website, especially depending on the size of the catalog. And if we're talking it's a catalog of 100 products, then maybe you could probably do the SEO manually. But when you get to 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, a million products, and they've all got their own unique attribute sets and attribute values assigned to those, therefore that exponentially grows the potential pool of people searching for those products and attribute matches, right? So what it means is that if you are, as a brand, you are rapidly scaling your catalog, it means you need to rapidly be able to scale your SEO efforts. And without going and spending millions of dollars on manual labor to make that happen, it's going to be almost impossible without a software tool to be able to assist that process from a scalability perspective. So it's almost, regardless of how much money you spend, it's an almost impossible task once you get to catalogs over a certain size. You need some form of automation to come to the table to be able to make that happen. And so how do you think of you guys within yourselves, within the context of a competitive SEOs, automated SEO, enterprise SEO, whatever you want to call it, AI-driven SEO space, how do you guys think that you're bringing something quite special to the table versus maybe some other products that are out there trying to do similar things?
I think the combination of being able to implement directly from within the platform makes it pretty unique. If you can literally do that analysis and it's automated, and then the same person is implementing that page immediately, I haven't seen anything like that. And I think that the process of it's a very kind of like a human process. This sort of keyword research, or historically it's been this human process, like keyword research. And it's a multi-stage and it's quite a complicated process, but at the same time it's quite specific. You have to do it in a specific order. And I think what Macaroni does is deal with what is quite a specific process. It's not really one that is, I don't know, that you can do in a different way. I think with other tools where they're automating some aspects of the sort of analysis, it will make things faster, but there's still a lot of, I don't know, human steps involved, and then you still have to go off and implement it in some way. It may automate parts of it. This is the whole kind of process done in one place where it makes sense to the person doing it. You still have that human expert overseeing it, but it's a lot more, I don't know, it's hopefully smooth and logical and natural, especially for someone who has been doing it manually, to then come to this and be like, okay, this is the same thing that I was doing in terms of we had to assign keywords to all of these URLs. And then we had to, just decide what the page title should be, and then the meta descriptions and all those kind of elements. But this tool is either suggesting them for me to edit, or it's just doing them and I trust it to work 100% of the time. The parts that aren't completely automated, the keyword mapping is pretty much there. That's a very complicated thing to automate. It's semantically very difficult, complicated process to get a keyword that is really specific to a page. But I would say 75-80% of that is populated with suggestions, which have to be signed off by someone. But I don't know, do you see Macaroni as quite a specific entity in the space at the moment? I think the closest thing where I see the links from the optimizer for PPC, where it takes you through those what changes to make and why, and I don't know, has that sort of thing behind it. But not for SEO. There's lots of kind of individual tools for different sort of like specific jobs, but those jobs need to be connected up into a whole process. Macaroni is the process of the taxonomy of an e-commerce website, basically.
And so with your tool, presumably your platform doesn't host the pages. Those are native Shopify collection pages that are created by your tool via API. And then are you creating automatic collections? And then that's how you ensure that the relevant products stay relevant, and the products that are assigned to that new collection page, that they stay relevant over time? Or does your platform automate the update process of which product should be assigned to that collection at any given point in time that's most relevant to the query, which hopefully matches the name of the collection, the H1, the URL, etc. All the components have to match and line up. And obviously the content on the page has to match, and then the products have to match. So how are you automating the process of making sure that we have the right products on the right collection that is a good match or a good fit for the queries that ultimately are going to get people to that page in the first place?
So to be honest, I'll have to check to see how it works with all the automated collections. I do know that it is based on the kind of clustering of attributes, and it will filter for those filter for those products, and metafield dependent on how each client has used them, because people use metafields and things in different ways. So there's usually some aspect of like custom setup needed there to determine how to group things and custom things. But but it is based on. I don't think it is using the automated collections. I think it is updated from within Macaroni, and it's based on products that match the attributes that it understands.
And so you can run that on a cron job kind of thing. Okay, once a day we're gonna re-examine a product data feed from the website or whatever, and make sure that at all times we're putting the relevant products in the right collection to make sure that it matches the query as close as possible, or at least I guess groups of queries would be probably a better way to describe it, because obviously there's some groups of queries that might relate to similar types of products, and they can all be assigned to the collection at the same time, and they could be a good match.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And do you think that ultimately, obviously, you pitch this, I can even see it on the Macaroni page, you pitch it as a Shopify app because, of course, you've designed it to specifically work with the Shopify technology, ecosystem, collection page model, API endpoints, etc. But you also pitch this at SEO agencies. Do you think there's a time coming where this entire process can be automated fully end-to-end, where you basically just plug in an app, press a button, it does all the research for you. It does all the query demand research. It plugs into Google Merchant Center. It plugs into all of your historical conversion data. It plugs into what behavior people take on the website. It plugs into keyword research, technology and tools, or it has its own. Do you think there's a time when, because it feels, and look, I am not an SEO expert. I don't work in this space. I'm not an SEO specialist. It's been a hell of a long time since I've even thought about SEO, to be perfectly honest. So I am not the guy to, but it just, as an outsider looking in, it feels very much like we're rapidly hurtling towards a time where we can automate all of this end to end, because it's ultimately computers talking to computers, really, and getting data from computers and getting data from other third-party systems and synthesizing that data down into a plan to meet the demand for queries that already exist in the market, and trying to find out whether we can meet that query demand. And frankly, it feels like this also contributes to new product development by the brand as well. Hey, cool, there's some adjacent demand here. You don't have any products in your catalog that exactly match this. Maybe you should find some, or maybe you should add some additional attributes to products to match this demand, because there is a match, but you're not attributing products correctly. So it feels like there's quite a lot of this. It feels, especially for e-commerce, that SEO is more technical in nature than it is artistic in nature, and it doesn't necessarily need so much romance copy and things like that. Like, it's very much down to, okay, here's a product that, based on its attributes, it can meet the demand of a certain segment of the market. We just need to be able to connect that segment of the market with these products and let them make the choice whether they want to buy them from us. It feels like that's the process.
Yeah, so this is a really interesting question. We've had a few, debates on this internally. I think firstly I should clarify. So we're building two separate things at the moment. We're building the agency platform, which doesn't have a specific name at the moment. They're both coming under umbrella Macaroni. The agency platform, that's ready to be used by anyone now. They just have to fill in the form and we'll get back to them. We're also building a Shopify app, which is doing a similar thing, but it's taking someone through that journey. It's taking a Shopify user through that journey without an agency and saying, you need to do this because of this. Here are the suggestions. Sign off these actions. And eventually it'll take them through that whole process. It'll guide an individual through that process of organizing, taxonomizing their whole site. Is it moving towards that being automated for everyone? Yes, probably. It's why Google lays out its guidelines for things. You don't really need a human creative or a human agent behind that whole process. It's not really suited to that. Whereas there are things which, for which humans are really suited to be doing, because e-commerce SEO, with the branding and the content strategy in particular, there is stuff that you can do that is creative. It is, as you said, it is, generally speaking, much smaller part of e-commerce SEO than it is other kinds of SEO. But yeah, I do see it as that process eventually is going to be, yes, you automate it. Or I guess even the long-term picture for Macaroni and this is very long term. No, not very long term. Depends on how the next couple of years go. Is we should be thinking about, I don't know, why do we need Shopify for this? We could build a platform that does this for everyone. You have a product, you have products, you know what their attributes are, you upload your SKUs, it does all that for you in your platform, and it sets out your store, it organizes the content, and then you can worry about the stuff that you should be worrying about: the branding, the product market fit, the pricing, your suppliers, all that kind of stuff.
Social media, marketing channels, other sales channels that we plumb products into, Amazon, Walmart, all the other sales channels we can sell through, combined with obviously our branding, our communication, our content, our social strategy, etc. How can we make an emotional connection with our customers as opposed to spend a whole lot of time, money, and effort manually connecting customers with products that are a good fit?
Yes, yeah, exactly. I think that's a really good way to think about it.
And how do you think that affects your work as part of Blink and other SEO, what we would call technical, typically what would have been referred to as technical SEO agencies for e-commerce brands? Where do you think that ultimately leaves them? Does that put them out of business? Does it put Blink out of business? Or does it change your target market, where with Blink, maybe, for example, maybe Macaroni deals with all the e-commerce merchants, and maybe Blink focuses on non-e-commerce merchants, SaaS technology platform vendors, and other types of merchants that are selling services or other things that are not e-commerce? Does that fundamentally change the value prop of agencies like Blink and other SEO agencies? Because at the end of the day, if this can be largely automated, then I think it does ultimately call into question where SEO agencies continue to add value. Hey team, I have a big favor to ask you. Please pause this episode and send the link of this episode to someone you know that you think would enjoy this content. Really appreciate you spreading the word. This is how we grow. We're not a Joe Rogan. We don't have big, massive advertising budgets, but we absolutely want to grow. We want to get the learnings from all of these episodes out to as wide of an audience as possible, and we need your help to do it. Thank you, and now back to your listening.
I think it will ultimately. Definitely, there's still going to be technical problems for which you need technical experts to fix, like migrations, things like that. There's still going to be enough of those to go around, I think, to keep agencies in a different form going for a good while. And then you can have a team of, I don't know, like creatives doing digital PR, those kind of things where they can add value. But yeah, it's completely changed the way we think about things. So I think the sort of the narrative with agencies and pricing, for example, is that you can't do cheap SEO because you can't get the results. You can't scale it quickly because you don't have enough budget, which means that only brands with enough money could ever do this. So I think this process will democratize this whole thing more, and smaller brands it won't be their SEO that is holding them back. It will be their product or whatever, which is how it should work. So yeah, I think democratizing the whole space is probably a good thing. I think, pricing for us, we've always, the advice has been, and at the time it made perfect sense, you need to keep increasing prices. You need to have this bespoke offering that commands a really high price. Macaroni is a kind of bespoke offering, but it doesn't make sense for us to charge more for something that's automated a lot more, takes us less time. So we're actually rethinking how we price things and what kind of business owner we're marketing to. We previously were only really trying to find businesses where they have the budget to a few thousand every month, say £5,000 to £10,000 every month, something like that. We can go to smaller businesses now, and we can still do some really good, impactful work. And that broadens the net for us because of this tool. It is going to change things, but I think it will eventually move towards how do agencies who are dealing with the sort of technical, let's just think about the technical side of owning and maintaining an e-commerce website is going to be different.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess that's the reason why I asked the question is, because I see on the Macaroni website, you pitch to agencies that are like Blink and are doing technical SEO for e-commerce brands, and this can automate a lot of their work. I guess it begs the question, if I was speaking to you guys and you came to me with this offering, I'd be thinking, are you 3 months away, 6 months away, 12 months away, 18 months away from completely automating us effectively out of a job of what we're doing today? And so therefore, even if we signed up with your platform to help us automate a large portion of what we do today, and we can effectively add a margin on top of the software cost or whatever it is. So maybe we still have a business model that works, but once I guess I'm just trying to play devil's advocate here. I'm not being negative about the platform in any way. I'm being very positive about the platform. I think that this is going to happen no matter what. I think ultimately, if you didn't do it, and there are other platforms out there that claim to do similar things. So again, I don't think you're in a category of one, but I think even if you didn't exist, and I think even if no other enterprise SEO platform out there existed today, with the headlong rush into AI technology, I think there's probably 4 or 5 other players out there that don't have a SEO agency background like you guys do, that are not trying to protect. They've got nothing to protect. They've got no agency business to protect. So why would they be worried about fully automating this process end to end? They see it as a software problem, a software challenge to be solved. And they would probably be saying to themselves, with AI in particular, we can probably use AI to automate the keyword research piece. We can probably automate using AI. We can probably we can use AI to automate the contextual matching between the products, the attributes, and the category structure, naming structure, conventions, using natural language processing, etc. We can probably do all this. And because we don't have an agency business to protect, why would we care if it puts agencies out of business? So I feel like if this is an inevitability, which to a degree it feels like it's an inevitability, then you probably figure it's probably better to disrupt ourselves. Even if it disrupts our agency business, ultimately, blink, it's better to disrupt ourselves than be disrupted from without, correct?
Yeah, so I think the timescale for this being like completely automated is enough time to give the Blink agency a decent lifespan. I think there's always going to be the need for like complicated human decisions at various points, for which you need a human expert to oversee. So the way I think about this is I think about chess and using a computer to aid with chess. I think the most powerful combination of when it comes to chess, or that creates, let's say, the most kind of, I don't know, the most beautiful, elegant chess games is the combination of a human with a machine doing the kind of really complicated manual stuff, the raw analysis. And I think that there will be various points, like the semantic complexities of semantic subtleties of how different, for example, different people will, and I've always been struck by this, as I've been working with e-commerce sites, is how different people think about the semantic structure of various collections. And for some people, they respond to slightly different things, different orders of attributes or whatever. So there is always going to be the need for a human expert to be like supervising, making some decisions, and then using the tool on top of it. And I think with us as an agency, you have people in your business who are really good problem solvers, applying creative solutions to complex problems, rather than thinking about, I don't know, how do we set up the QA process for this content delivery? Now we can apply that sort of thing for how do we improve the inputs for this algorithm for this automated content? And then how do we go about editing that in a way that preserves the time saving? So there's still lots of problem solving going on. They will be leaner operations, and I think that's fine. I think if you're a kind of creative, and like as I said before, I came from a writing background, and I ended up doing SEO because I was a copywriter, and then I quite quickly found myself big spreadsheets in front of me with loads and loads of pages, going, okay, how do I make sense of this? How can I make this easier? Because right now I've got like 5,000 pages that all need metadata, and I guess I'll just concatenate these bits and I don't know, hack some things together. If someone doesn't have to do that, then they can I don't know, they can think more about more about things where they can really add value, rather than working out how to automate something, which is what I was trying to do all the time.
Which is, I think, how every SEO agency they've got their own spreadsheet formulas, and they've got their own macros, and they've got their own things that they bring down, and they've got their own macros by platform. Okay, this is how we work with Magento. This is how we work with BigCommerce. This is how we work with Shopify. And they've got their own sort of proprietary, and everybody feels like most SEO agencies are reinventing the wheel every single time, because they all have had to figure out how to bring efficiency to what they do, but also bring extreme value to the client. And so they've tried to figure out where the meat is in the middle, right? Where they go, okay, here's how we can do this efficiently, bring value to the client, and also make money in the process and be able to maintain a team. But I think the days, because I remember, I've been doing this for over 20 years. I remember back in the day walking into SEO agencies, and they would have 50 people in rows of desks, and the only thing they were doing was creating category pages. They'd log into the back end to the admin of a website, and they'd be creating category pages at scale. They would have their list,
Yep.
they'd have their spreadsheet, they'd be copy pasting, and that was their life. They were, they were basically human machines in trying to create these things at scale. And I think that aspect of SEO is probably going to go away. And I think, to your point, on the value front, I think I'll use my own example. So I'm a content creator at scale. I recently subscribed to a platform called Write Blogger. Fantastic platform. I don't make any money for saying that. I just use it. It's a fantastic platform. I think it's great value for money. It's an AI-driven platform. And what I use it has many functions within it. But what I primarily use it for is the conversion of my YouTube videos, my long-form YouTube videos, into equivalent blog articles. And they have a fantastic function where you can put in some sample URLs of your existing content so that it picks up and it assesses what your tone of voice is, how you speak, what kind of language you use, the type of terminology and word choice that you have, the type of style that you speak in, the tone that you speak in. It assesses all of that. And then what it does is then you can plug in new YouTube URLs of your videos, and then it will convert that into equivalent blog articles. Now, can I immediately copy and paste exactly that output and put it directly into my WordPress website as a blog article? No, but it probably does somewhere between 80 and 90% of the heavy lifting. So I timed it, and it takes me roughly, if I do it from scratch myself and I write an equivalent blog article for one of my long form videos, it takes me about 1 hour. Using Write Blogger, it takes me about 7 minutes. So I copy and paste the content out of there. I put it into a Google Sheet. I do all the final tweaks and the editing and make sure that everything is spelled the way I want it spelled, make sure it reads the way I want it to read, make sure it includes the right spelling of people's names and the right name of platforms or technologies or brands, making sure that everything is right. And then I take it from there. I paste it into WordPress. I put all of the correct category tags against it. Then I embed the video in the bottom of the page. And all up, it takes me about 7 minutes to do that entire process versus 1 hour. Now, that still requires human input on my part, but I'd rather spend 7 minutes than 1 hour per article. Yeah. So I think, to your point, what you were saying is that even if humans are still required, there is a massive amount of efficiency to be gained by using tooling that automates the grunt work.
Definitely, yes. Yeah. And this area, this kind of process that so many people have to do. Everyone who owns or starts an e-commerce brand from the beginning, sets up their Shopify thing, they have to do it at some point. It's very resource intensive, and it's an ideal process for automation AI to be applied to.
Yeah, at scale. And how do you guys make your money? So how do you charge? Is there a fee for I'm guessing there's no fee for the Shopify app. Do you charge per pages generated or maintained, or how do you guys make your money as a platform vendor?
For Macaroni, we're charging per domain.
Okay.
At the moment, we have discounts for early starters coming on board. Pricing, that is going to change. I think it's going to be more based on a kind of a scale model, like per URL in a domain, work things out that way. At the moment, it's very simple. It's price per domain, and I think it will have to get more complicated eventually, but that's how we're doing things to start.
Sure. And how much is it? That's a fixed flat fee per month. What's the monthly fee for that?
So people who are joining at the moment, it's £150 per domain.
Okay, per month, basically.
Yeah, per month, and that's something that can be easily recoverable from the client. You can do it in lots of ways. You can add it as an invoice item for a client that you have. You can just you can be quite flexible with how you recover that cost or mark up on it or whatever. Complicated thing we're looking at the pricing, and we've seen, I don't know, Ahrefs, for example, got a lot of stick for their pricing update, and it's impenetrable now. But yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, makes complete sense. And what's on your roadmap? Like, what over the next 12, 18 months, what do you want to add to the platform that it doesn't do today, or what are your clients or agency clients asking for that it doesn't do yet that you want to make sure that it does?
I think getting the keyword mapping more automated to a higher degree is the biggest priority, and that's quite a big job because that's where at the moment it requires the most human attention, and if that is complicated, that is going to take some building to do and get right. And honestly, I think with that in place, with that really powerful foundation, I think there aren't big features at the moment that people are crying out for. Maybe the reporting side of things, that's going to be where more things going to be added. So there's a reporting side of this as well from within the platform. So you can set up custom reports, custom reporting dashboards with various metrics. There's actually another part of Macaroni that we haven't really touched on, and this is where it started in a way with the data science, what's the right word, like forecasting and things like that. I mean, trying to look at correlations between different events. Everyone, I think, knows how complicated it is to really get attribution and really understand how your actions, like a specific action, has an impact on revenue. And I think the majority of people operate under a sort of like smoke and mirrors, telling stories of data kind of thing. And that's fine, that's how things work. But with actual data science, you can actually say confidently, like, these two things are related. This event happened here, and this was the impact you had on revenue. And we're at the point now where we can, in our reporting, we can say, you created this category page here, and this is the impact it had on revenue, or you optimized these titles, this batch of 20 titles, this is the change that they have. So reporting is another side of it. Obviously, it's really important for the agency side of things. But yeah, in terms of features, definitely, I think the keyword mapping and improving the automation of that is the next big thing.
Wow, exciting times. And how do you like people to get a hold of you if they want to learn more about Macaroni? I'll drop your LinkedIn profile into the links, and I'll drop the Macaroni link into the show notes. But other than that, if people want to talk to you about SEO at scale, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
So at james@macaroni.works, that's the email to get me on. I'm on LinkedIn, and I'm a lot more active on LinkedIn. I think historically I've been a pretty reluctant LinkedIn user, but only in the last, I don't know, few weeks, really, I've started to get more engaged and started posting, and actually have found it really, really beneficial. Like, I think it's a really good way to process what you're thinking about what you're doing by writing posts about it and talking to people about it, because you don't really, by doing that, it helps you to think through these things and things come through to the surface. Yeah, on LinkedIn, much more engaged there. So add me on LinkedIn as well. Happy to chat there. And if not, email james@macaroni.works. That's good too.
Sounds fantastic. James, as we're coming down to the close of our time together, I really appreciate your time. It's been super fascinating conversation. Like I said, I'm no expert on SEO, so this has given me some interesting things to think about and some insights into the industry that I never had before. So super cool to chat to you, and super cool to chat to a true SEO's expert with lots of experience. Now's where I get to flip the script, turn the microphone over to you, let you ask me one question, any question you like, can be personal or professional. So, James from Macaroni, what is your question for me today?
Oh, wow. Okay, this is a really good opportunity. One question.
Yeah.
It's like having 3 wishes. Where can I start? What's the strategically most useful thing? Gosh. The experience that you've had, I didn't realize, but it was really awesome insight from 20 years ago. 50 people all doing this work. It's really awesome. I don't know. I guess maybe I'll what do you think e-commerce brands themselves are thinking about this at the moment? I feel like it's not very high on their radar. SEO historically hasn't been. It's something that tends to be recommended like afterwards, but I feel like this is something that, like, after bigger marketing stuff and PR, these big things going on, and SEO is like recommended by someone who's a little voice in the back. Oh, you should probably do SEO. They're like, maybe we'll get around to it, and we'll give 5% of the marketing budget towards it or whatever. But are e-commerce brands themselves, are they aware of this stuff going on? Are they aware of the sort of the resource intensiveness of SEO and how it might be disrupted?
I think they're aware only insofar as SEO agencies have often obfuscated. There's a saying in our industry, in industry in general, where there's mystery, there's margin. And at the end of the day, I think most SEO agencies have had a vested interest in keeping e-commerce brands in the dark, dumb, for lack of a better term, keeping them ignorant, keeping them unaware of what's involved. And it always felt like most SEO agencies, they wanted to keep SEO as this black box that they were the font of all knowledge in. They kept up with the algorithm updates, the Google algorithm updates. They kept up with the latest trends. They kept up with industry best practice, and then they brought that into their consulting engagement. But ultimately, oftentimes what they were doing is they were doing a bit of basic keyword research, and then they were saying, here, you need to create these category pages, right? And so I think that there historically has been this thought that, and because of the pricing that most SEO agencies have to make them a sustainable business, it's not a cheap exercise when you do it for example, if you took your monthly fee that you pay your SEO agency divided by how many pages were created in a given month, it can work out to be a pretty expensive, on a per page basis, it can end up being a pretty expensive exercise to do this 100% through an agency. And so I think what has happened is that a lot of brands have assumed that they need to be at, say, I don't know, pull a number out of your backside, maybe $10 million a year, $5 million a year. They have to be at a certain scale before they feel like they deserve or can afford to work with an SEO agency, right? And or see value, or see genuine value from an SEO agency. And I think they also rightfully realize that they need to have a certain size and scale of catalog too. So these 1-2 product brands, these drop shipping brands, these types of brands, these less than 10 product, Shopify only dropship brands, there's really no opportunity to do SEO. When you've got, I would say if you've got like 500 products or more, then you're probably at a place where, and basically the bigger the catalog, both the bigger the challenge and the bigger the opportunity. But usually when you get to a catalog that's, say, 10,000 SKUs, it usually means, not always, it usually means that you're a big enough business that you can probably afford an SEO agency to own elements of that for you. But I do believe, and I've seen this even when I was still working inside of brands, I see this constant struggle to justify your existence as an SEO agency. You come to these, you have an account manager, and you come to the meetings every month, and you present your findings. You present the spreadsheet where you show your rankings for specific queries. You've moved up, you've moved down. Here's how many URLs you've got in Google's index. And it feels like a whole big song and dance that actually doesn't really tell you that much, but it just makes you feel like the SEO agency is doing something. And so you don't have to think about it anymore. It's been their court, it's their responsibility. And they, once a month, they try to justify their existence by showing you some fancy spreadsheets and some fancy increases in rankings for some specific queries that there's a bit of demand for. And that's always how it's felt to me. And it's always felt, I don't want to say it's a dirty industry, because I don't think it is. I think the SEO industry has brought a lot of value to brands over the years. But I just feel that there has historically been a lot of intentional obfuscation about what is involved in doing technical SEO. And I think that's not a good thing.
Yeah, that answer was really good. It was really valuable. To me, it's really good looking back on this. Yeah, that idea of justifying your existence, I think is, absolutely right. That it is difficult, but it's difficult and has been difficult to explain what you're doing and why. I think this, when you're doing kind of a lot of manual stuff, that sort of tends to be, I don't know, what you're perceived to be doing as well. I think maybe people are thinking, we've got to do this stuff, might as well just let them do it. And, and they just sort of, either they don't really care about it, they don't really care about what's going on, and they focus on other things, or a smaller business that we tend to work with, they tend to be banking on SEO. They don't have a marketing department. They're not spending tens of thousands every month on marketing. SEO is what they have to do. Yeah, it's a very different kind of also all they have the budget for. So they're resting a lot on it, and that's problematic because it can't change the product, it can't do the branding, it can't change the pricing, whether the pricing is right. We can't do all of that stuff, and that is really that really affects sales. So we've definitely found ourselves caught in between those two sort of things quite often. And hopefully the Macaroni, we can satisfy both.
Tick all the boxes and do it scalably and sustainably for both merchant and SEO agency as well. Listen, James, this has been a fantastic conversation. Learned a ton. An hour has absolutely flown by. Really appreciate your time, and I can't wait to speak to you again soon. Are you a B2B or D2C e-commerce merchant? Then head over to greenwoodconsulting.net to learn how we can help you scale your business.